We live in an age where everyone is trying to build themselves up, become famous, make more money, get into the limelight. But it's interesting because many of us do this at the cost of others. You see, we live in an individualistic society that teaches us that if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. And what happens then is that we begin to lose sight of others around us. In this environment, humility becomes a thing of the past. Humility can be defined as a modest or low view of one's own importance. It's a quality not often associated with leaders, but it should be. Why? Because although humility may sound like a weakness, it's actually one of the most powerful traits a leader can have. Why? Because no one likes to work for someone who thinks they know it all, who doesn't listen to anyone and just bulldozes over people. On the other hand, everyone wants to work for someone who makes them feel valued and respected, someone who is humble enough to listen to your ideas and acknowledge your strengths. That being said, there are some ways in which humility can undermine your leadership. Before we dive in, let's make one thing clear. We aren't talking about false humility. That S, when you pretend to be less capable than you actually are to gain other people's favor. False humility is a form of manipulation, and manipulation is never a good trait in any leader. With that said, here are 3 ways humility can undermine your leadership. No. 1. When you think you're not qualified enough. Imagine you've just been promoted to a management position. After all, this is your first time in a leadership role. You worried that you be able to live up to the expectations, and that you make a fool of yourself. As a result, you start to second-guess your decisions and wonder if you're really cut out for this. Why? Because they can sense that you don't believe in yourself. How can they trust you to lead them if you don't even trust yourself? But there's a difference between having high standards and being a perfectionist. Perfectionists are often their own worst enemies. The important thing is to try and learn from your mistakes. Be humble enough to admit that you're not perfect, and that's okay. In fact, it's what makes you human. No. 2. When you don't share the spotlight. Let's look at a situation where you and your team have just completed a successful project. Everyone on your team played an important role in the success of the project. There was the team leader who motivated everyone and made sure that everyone was working towards the same goal. And then there was you. It was a good job that contributed to the overall success of the project. But it wasn't perfect. In fact, there were some things that could have been done better. But instead of acknowledging the contributions of others and celebrating the team's success, you think about how you could have done your job better. And you start to feel like you do undeserve to be part of the celebration, because they realize that you're not interested in celebrating their success. You're only interested in your own. Narcissists are only interested in themselves. They don't care about the feelings of others. They don't listen to anyone. If you want to be a great leader, you can't be a narcissist. You need to be humble enough to celebrate the success of others and lift them up, even if it means that you have to take a step back. A great leader knows that the success of their team is their success. So when your team wins, you win. Number 3. When you don't accept feedback, imagine that you've just given a presentation at work. You put a lot of time and effort into preparing for it. You knew the material inside out and you thought it went well. You felt confident and in control. However, after the presentation, you received some feedback from your boss. They told you that you were too nervous and that you rambled a bit. You felt embarrassed and angry. You thought you had done a great job and you didn't appreciate your boss's criticism. You started to think that maybe your boss was just being difficult, or maybe they didn't understand the topic. You decided to let it go and move on. You figured that the next presentation would be a better one. You're even more nervous and you end up forgetting what you were supposed to talk about. The presentation is a disaster. You feel discouraged and demotivated. You think about quitting your job. What happened? Well, you didn't accept the feedback from your previous presentation. You didn't take the time to improve your public speaking skills. As a result, you lost confidence in yourself and your ability to give presentations. What does this teach us? Leaders who are too proud to accept feedback are doomed to fail. Why? Because they close themselves off to valuable insights that could help them improve. They think they know it all and that there's nothing anyone else can teach them. This couldn't be further from the truth. Even if you're the CEO of a company, you still have a lot to learn from your employees. If you want to be a great leader, you need to be humble enough to accept feedback and use it to improve yourself. Don't let your pride get in the way of your success. Being humble isn't easy, especially in today's world where everyone is trying to outdo each other. We hope this video has taught you that humility is something to strive for, not avoid. This creates an environment of mutual respect and trust, which is essential for strong leadership. We would love to hear from you. What are some ways that you've seen humility undermine leadership? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Also, Before you go, make sure to subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching.